welcome, and thank you for having me here tonight to speak to you on stress management, on coping with life in practice. So probably for those who don't know me, I'll introduce myself a little bit. I'm a vet. I qualified from London in 2002. I then went into equine practice, and when I started in practice I was the fifth member of a four-partner team, and I was like the first assistant. We then grew our practice to be a 12-vet practice. I'm also married to a vet who was also working in the same practice and is now director of that practice. We then merged with our neighbouring practice, and we're now a 28 horse vet practice in the southwest. So through that time, I've sort of seen how practices grow, how they develop, how they change, and how that change process and how practice life really affects individuals, affects teams, as well as how it affects our clients as well. So I really understand the pressures that we face in practice. As Alan said, I'm now doing what I'm doing now full time. I stopped my clinical work about a year ago. And it was really during my time in practice that I recognised it's not only the clinical aspects that are the challenge. After the first couple of years, it seems to be everything else that life tends to throw at us that are the most challenging. So whether that for some people would be time management, what you sort of term stress management things, confidence, teams, conflict, and that can be within teams and with clients as well. So generally it's not the clinical things that are giving us the headache. Over the years in practice, I developed my clinical specialisms, and that was all great. But actually, what I probably did was moved not necessarily away from the animal side, but much more into the people side and what's behind the behaviours that we see and why we do what we do. I've unfortunately also been affected, like probably many other vets. Between myself and my husband, we've had 10 friends, colleagues, and associates really who've committed suicide, and many more with poor well-being, burnout, taking time off work, or just general poor, not enjoying what they do. And I'm not going to say that my time in clinical work was all a bed of roses, but actually I did really enjoy what I was doing, and I was really surprised at how many people didn't, and I thought that was really started to question why that would be. So about 3 years ago, I trained as a personal performance coach and did a diploma in personal performance coaching. I then also went on and did a diploma in stress management and wellbeing, so I realised that actually was a real passion of mine. And I'm currently now doing a master's in workplace health and wellbeing at Nottingham University with medical school there, which hopefully will then go on to do a PhD. And that's basically stress in the workplace and what we can do about it. So now I help vets, nurses, practice teams, practice managers overcome the personal professional challenges they face. So I work very closely one-on-one with individuals through coaching programs. I work with teams in practice to build the best teams, because I really believe that we all want to be part, and we should all want to be part of a motivated, engaged, productive, and therefore profitable and harmonious team. And so how we can do that in practice. I also work very closely with women in profession as well. During my time in practice, we've got 2 very small children, so I've gone from the full-time to the part-time and done the juggle and made that work. So I work very closely with webinars on working in practice and the practicalities of working in practice whilst you're pregnant, and then a webinar series on how to return to work with confidence and clarity, knowing how your life in practice and your life as a parent can now work for you. So on a daily basis, I work with people with stress, talking about it, what the causes are for the individuals, the signs, the interventions, and it's a really, really significant issue in all practices. There will be a degree of stress, I would imagine, in the majority, if not all the practices there are in the UK. So we need to be really actively seeking solutions so that we can intervene and minimise those risks for each individual, and also ultimately, at the end of the day, really look after ourselves, because ultimately we have one life. We may have many careers within that, but we have one life. So how can we get the best out of it? what do we need to put in place to ensure that we are fulfilling everything that we want to do and we're getting what we want from our life and from our career. Henry Ford always said, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. And I think that works, and we're all probably quite, we probably all fall into this category at some point, always trying to do the same thing and yet expecting a different result. And that's really Einstein's also definition of insanity, doing the same thing again and again yet expecting something different. So we need to really take stock and sit back and actually look at the way in which we're working with our life and with our career, rather than saying there are things that we don't want. Well, what is it that we do want? And reshift and look at the difference in our focal point, really. Let's not look at the negative, let's look at the positive, and let's focus on what we do want. Because when we know what we do want, we're then in a much better position to start to take some action and start moving forward. So tonight we're going to be talking about stress. We're going to be looking at the national picture. We're going to look at how it's affecting the veterinary profession, what the signs of stress are, what maybe the causes are. We're going to look briefly about the coping mechanisms, and then what you can do in practice to reduce those and minimise those risks, and make sure actually also that you are legally compliant and you are looking after your staff members and your colleagues, and you're doing everything you should be doing. So the national picture, it's not a very nice picture, I must admit. It's 10.4 million working days each year are lost due to stress, anxiety and depression. Stress has become the most common cause of long-term sickness absence. It causes over 50% of our time taken off work. It's the greatest cause of absenteeism. And importantly, it's also the greatest cause of presenteeism. So it might sound a bit of an American word, but actually it is a definition. And it's about being present at work, probably in body, but not necessarily actually fully present. And so that really then links in with engagement. If you're just present physically there, then are you actually engaged and motivated in what you're doing, and therefore are you profitable and productive for your practice? And so that is often a lack of that, or increased demand for presenteeism is often caused by stress, and the effect that stress then has on the engagement and motivational levels of individuals. When people do then take time off work as a result of stress, is an estimated 24 days per year caused by stress. I would also say that when people actually take time off work, which for something that's actually caused directly by stress, so they go off with burnout or anxiety issues, whatever the actual, I suppose the label is put on at the end of the day, you're looking at probably about three to 6 months before somebody comes back into the workplace in a recovered mindset. So it has a really significant issue, really significant impact on your business when people have to take time off work because of stress. But the challenges are that the psychosocial risks and work-related stress are probably some of the most challenging issues when we look into occupational health and safety, and when we're looking at that workplace stress. Mainly because a lot of it isn't reported. And a lot of it isn't talked about a lot. And so I think those are probably some of the challenges that we have, that because people aren't talking about how stress is affecting them, because they don't want to be shown to be a weakness, and still within the profession, certainly within our profession, we have a very much get on with it attitude. Then nothing happens until bang, and then somebody goes off with burnout. And yet, if we have a much more proactive approach to it, we can intervene much earlier and prevent these lost working days, prevent the negative impact it has on our bottom line, and prevent the negative impact it has on the individuals, because we have to remember they're the individuals going through this. These are people. It's not just a KPI or something else we're looking at. This is the human element behind this, a massive human element. And the most important resource you have in your practice are the people within your team. So we've got to be looking after them. So that's the national picture. It's a significant issue across well, worldwide actually.